It's time for Political Buzz, the television forum to discuss politics and issues of interest for all of Western New York. Now, from the WBBZ television studio at the Eastern Hills Mall, this is Political Buzz.
Welcome to Political Buzz. I'm Phil Arno. One thing you can count on in Western New York is a never-ending drama of personalities in politics. One man who's currently in the spotlight is Republican New York State Senator for the 60th District, Mark Grisani. Winning election in 2010, Grisani represents an area that includes parts of Buffalo, the South Towns, Tonawanda, and Grand Island. In recent primary election, our guest lost to the Republican challenger, Kevin Stocker, but he'll continue his fight on the Independence Party line, going up against Democrat Mark Panepinto and now Republican candidate Stocker. We should note that both of Grisani's opponents were invited to participate but decided not to. You've been known to be an independent thinker. You've been known to be a fighter and kind of unpredictable. What do you say to the critics that say that you've basically gone back and forth and some of the votes that you've taken?
Well, first of all, Phil, thanks for having me here, and you got a lovely studio, and congratulations. What I say is, if you separate out the categories, on the social issues, it seems to be where people have a problem with. On the economic issues, and based on my record on the economic issues, I don't think anybody can complain to see what has been delivered and what I have delivered to Western New York in the 60th District. And they could see it by what is happening right here in this region. On the social side, I won in a 7-1 Democratic district in 2010, defeated Antoine Thompson.
Nobody expected that.
They didn't expect that. I mean, that's somebody that was politically entrenched, and kind of basically said, that Grisani's not going to beat me. When I won, about 6 months into it, the marriage equality vote came up, and I stood on the Senate floor and I said, listen, who am I to judge? Who am I to say that somebody should not have the same rights that I share with my wife? And also what people don't realize that there was another part attached to that bill, the marriage equality bill, that also protected the religious organizations, the not-for-profits, the benevolent organizations from being sued. So what we did is we passed a bill of equality, but we also protected religious organizations and not-for-profits from either losing money or being sued, and we joined both of those bills together with what's called an inseverability clause that allowed those bills to become one, and if one word was challenged by a court of competent jurisdiction, if one word was thrown out of either bill, they both fail. And there was really no legal challenges to the legislation because they felt that everybody knew where they stood. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think part of the criticism was when you were running, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said that you would vote against it. And then when it came up, you voted for it. And even though, there's other parts to the bill that right. kind of amended a little bit or add to it, that was the main criticism. Now, you won re-election after that vote.
Correct.
So that wasn't the kind of nail in the coffin, if you will, to right. your political career. Right. You're continuing on now because you lost in a narrow primary to Stocker.
Correct.
How much of the equality in marriage bill how much did that play a part, and how much did the SAFE Act take part in this?
I think that for the marriage equality bill, I did say when I was running that I had a problem with the term marriage, and we looked into civil unions and how possibly civil unions could be done in New York State. And we looked to New Jersey, and we saw in New Jersey they had civil unions that ran along the same line, but then after a period of time went in different directions where basically were costing the taxpayers twice the amount of money to do a program. So with that being where it was, and the fact that talking to people, and as I said, saying, why should I not allow somebody to have the same rights that I have, and having the religious exceptions put in there, that's why I voted yes on the legislation. I did win in 2012. 2013, the SAFE Act came to the floor, And from what people don't realize in the SAFE Act is I still consider myself a Second Amendment advocate. This has more to do with, there was legislation that came out that had about 27 enumerated items on restrictions from law-abiding gun owners. That's what the downstate Democrats, Senator Diaz, put in the legislation. Our Republican conference didn't have any legislation when it came to guns. We had increasing criminal penalties, going after straw purchases, going after gangs that hide guns in houses, and giving aid to schools who want to increase security measures. So when the initial legislation came out, it had in there that semi-automatic shotguns at 5 rounds were going to be considered assault weapons. Now I chair the ENCON committee, Environmental Conservation Committee. Those are really a lot of your hunters. It's a $2 billion plus year industry. So we went ahead, myself and other senators, went ahead and took out as much as we could on some of those items that we felt were intrusive, and realizing we're not in the majority, we did the best that we could. So out of those 27, we removed about 13. Your confiscation, micro-stamping, how many clips you could buy, how many guns you can carry, a lot of things. And we got in what our Republican conference wanted in. And I voted for the legislation because I felt some of the items that are in the SAFE Act are actually good for New York State and should be probably followed for the nation. Increasing the criminal penalties, the aid to schools for security measures. So that's where I voted on. That's where I voted on the SAFE Act. Now some people say, okay, well instead of taking my arm, he took my hand. I understand that and I respect their opinion. But moving forward, there are some very strong issues that are coming into play. And that's my concern about this seat being lost to downstate Democrats, not the IDC or the Republicans, the downstate Democrats, of other issues that are coming into play that are going to be a lot more shocking than what they've seen in the past.
This is an extremely complicated situation. You're a Republican, or you were a Republican running in a Democrat-controlled area,
Right.
And then infused with state politics and backroom decisions and influences. There's a lot of things going on in the background here that the people, the voters, really don't know about. I mean,
Right.
you're an insider now. You know the system. You've been into it. What's going on? I mean, the teachers union, here's one example. The teachers union spent almost $300,000 to get your opponent elected or winning the primary,
Right.
your Republican opponent,
Right.
and they're the Democrats in the race. So it's very convoluted, and there's a lot of backroom stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
You know, in 2008, I ran as a Democrat against Antoine Thompson by myself and my family and friends and got 35% of the vote. When I wanted to run again in 2010 as a Democrat, the Democrats wanted to keep Antoine Thompson in the race. I was given the Wilson Pakula to run as a Republican, and we defeated him. And with that victory, it allowed the Republicans to maintain and get back control of the New York State Senate that they lost in 2009 and 2010. And in 2009, 2010, when the Democrats downstate had control of the Senate, they hit every single taxpayer in New York State with $14 billion in new tax and fees and left with a $10 billion deficit. My first year, we got rid of the deficit. We started repealing some of the fees. We passed 4 on-time budgets. We stay below the tax cap in spending. And what happens behind the scenes is that there's legislation that is either tried to be brought to the floor that has no chance of passing in both houses. But they do it for jockeying of position to see, hey, this is what I stand for, this is what we want to do. I don't bring forth any piece of legislation unless I know that it has a very, very good chance of passing in both the Assembly and the Senate. And it's shown by my record that I'm one of the most productive lawmakers in Western New York that has passed more legislation in 4 years than a lot of other people. I'm actually, I believe, ranked 7th out of 63 New York State senators. Somebody that's only been there 4 years in a row. What I do is I understand what it means to get people in a room and make sure that they understand what the legislation is and how it gets voted on, whether you're on the Republican side or Democratic side in both the Senate and the Assembly. And I talk to people from all sides. I take meetings from individual groups, even groups that don't like me. I'll take meetings either to get their input on certain legislation that I have, or hear what they have to say on other issues that they have. And that's keeping an open mind. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years. And as I said, economically, it's been working well for Western New York and this region. As I said, on social issues, you know, if there's five issues that a person has, and they don't agree with one of my votes out of the 5 or 2 out of the 5, 3 out of 5, where I'm sitting right now in a heavily Democratic district is not bad, considering they won't like all 5 out of 5.
Well, politics has been called a contact sport in Western New York. A lot of interesting things coming up. That's it for this segment. We'll be right back.